Chapter 19. A house painter? Spike looked at me and blinked. We sat on his terrace. I discovered him sleeping on a Times editorial and whimpering in his sleep. He yawned rather openly and tried to disguise it by pretending to say, "Ah." "I didn't ask you for an ah. It's just a theory," I conceded. I paced round the tiles. "But theoretically, it works. I mean, nobody sticks around when there's a painter in the house. At least, not in the same room." "You got a point," he said. "A painter wants to snoop, he can snoop. And we know," I said slowly, "that the Crandalls got painted." "Okay," he said. "We know because the Crandalls told McPhee. But on the other paw, Sammy—" He paused. "I hate to mention this, but what about the others?" "I don't know about the others. I don't know about the Kellys, but I know about the Cohens." I was thinking about Rick. Rick and his everything you see can be a clue. I was thinking about the very clean, peach-colored walls in the otherwise less than immaculate apartment, a house full of dust balls, fingerprints, and crumbs. I was thinking of the trio of nicely framed pictures that were stacked against the chair, and the walls without hooks, and how usually a painter pulls the hooks before he paints. "Hey, nice thinking." Spike looked at me and frowned. After a breath, he said, "I think I've got a hunch." "About the Kellys?" "About their kitchen." "Go on." "It was white. I mean, very, very white. I mean, very, very white. Like it was painted. Like that." We grinned at each other. "Okay." I started kicking a pebble across the tile. "Not switching the subject. There's a funny shade of red. Something like a cross between cinnamon and catsup. Called cinnabar," he said. "Okay. So the Sternwoods' living room was cinnabar. Before they redid it, the living room was French." "Okay, what's your question?" "Okay, Mr. Expert. Is cinnabar French?" He grinned at me. "Its other name is Chinese red. Does that answer you?" Click! All the pieces came together. When the Sternwoods converted from French to Chinese, their apartment had been painted. And I even knew when. Memorial Day weekend. What I needed now was Sandy. I borrowed Spike's telephone, looked up the number, and reached him at his condo. He answered with a growl. "If I just woke you, too bad," I said. "I need to ask a question. Just one. Were you painted?" He yawned. "How'd you know?" "Turpentine," I said. It woke him like a shot. "Aha!" he said thoughtfully. "So that's where I'd smelled it. It was sickening. It hung around the air here for days." "Did you ever see the painter?" "Not me, man. I work. After work, I went to Sue's." I drummed on the table. "Did you stay there for dinner?" He laughed at me. "Don't get your back up, old buddy. I left about 6, in time to come home to a nice smelly house." I could have said thank you, goodbye, and hung up, but I found myself asking him to pin down the date. He put me on hold while he hunted for his book. I looked suddenly at Spike. "Ask Sugary," I said, "what date she was painted." Spike nodded happily and bounded out of the room. Sandy came back and said, "May 22nd. It was then I said, thank you, goodbye, and hung up, and then dialed another number. Half a dozen rings, and then, "Sternwood residence." "Lady Anne?" I said. "Sam, what date were you painted?" "I," she said, "have never been painted in my life. I'm a natural blonde, dear, as everybody knows." I rephrased the question. "Oh," she said. Well, I don't know the number, dear. I only know the name." The name? I said. Friday. Like in Robinson Crusoe? I glanced at Donna's datebook. The Friday of Memorial Day weekend, I found it, was Friday the 29th. And Sandy had also been painted on a Friday. Friday the 22nd. I grinned like a fool and said, "Thank you, Lady Anne. You've been very, very helpful." "Oh dear," she said. "I don't like to think of myself as helpful. It sounds so tacky. Could you change that to generous?" "Of course," I said. "You're very, very generous, Lady Anne." Spike came in as I was getting off the line. Sugary said Friday. It was Friday, June 5th. "Thank you, Lord Spike. You are generous to a fault." At 6:07 I was back at my computer. I typed, "Name of person, day painted, day robbed." Then I filled in the list. Sandy, day painted, Friday, May 22nd. Day robbed, Saturday, July 4th. Lady Anne, day painted, Friday, May 29th. Day robbed, Saturday, July 11th. Sugary, day painted, Friday, June 5th. Day robbed, Saturday, July 18th. X, day painted, ? Day robbed, Saturday, July 25th. If my theory was correct, then X, meaning person or persons unknown, would be robbed in 2 days, the upcoming Saturday, July 25th. If I was doubly correct, then X had been painted. I was looking for a pattern. If I figured out when Mr. X had been painted, then possibly, with luck, I'd figure out who he was. I looked at the calendar and looked at the list. Then suddenly I had it. Mr. X had been painted on Friday, June 12th. Oh.